Welcome back to a family business podcast. We're into 2026 and amazing things are already happening, and we're only 14 days in, 2 weeks into 2026. We have done something pretty special at our office at Buy, Sell, Build QC Real Broker, and we're learning how to communicate and build relationships. So today I want to dive into the relationship and what that looks like and the importance of it within real estate.
PT, that's a great topic.
It means everything.
Conversion happens in conversation.
That is correct.
Wait, all conversion happens in conversation. Is that right?
That's what Sharon says, yeah.
I made a new friend at the gym today. Does that what we're going to talk about, PT?
That's
Well,
fine.
in all the different ways and so forth. But you can tell your story about how you met someone new and what you did with it.
Yeah, well, so, one of the things in this challenge that we're doing, did you just say the name of the challenge? I guess we don't have to say the name, but there's a fun little challenge we're doing, like PT said, at Buy, Sell, Build QC that we kicked off last week, and it goes for 50 days. And we have 12 agents, I think, participating, which is phenomenal. But anyway, one of the things is that they have to add 5 new friends to their database every week. This is not a client. This is not someone that they're talking to about transacting, although, we all, that sometimes is a byproduct of genuine relationships. But just 5 new friends. So today I was at the gym and there was this lady that I always talk to. I mean, we always, like whatever about this, whatever, hot works, whatever. And so I was chit-chatting with her, and then I went into the bathroom, and then I was sitting there. I'm like, why didn't I introduce myself? I need to make 5 new friends. So I went back out and I said, hey, by the way, my name's Andrea. And she said, oh, hi, Andrea. Nice to meet you. My name's Janice. And then we chit-chatted some more. So I met a new friend.
It's that easy.
It was awesome. And now when I see her, I'll know her name. And so when we chit chat, that relationship will just grow. So everyone should do that.
I think that's a very good point. A lot of people, when they get into real estate, they get weird and they don't have normal conversations. What you just did is exactly what you should do, is you to see each other at the gym all the time. So you obviously have that in common. And you just had a natural conversation, which is what we should all be doing in real estate, that we're helping people make the biggest purchase of their life. And when do people work with you, Andrea?
When they know, like, and trust you.
Bingo.
PT, do you remember? I don't know who the podcast guy was, but there was somebody who, it was last year or whatever, but I just specifically remember how it's like you're supposed to walk up and introduce yourself and look them in the face and then say, it was something weird. Like, do you know anybody who's looking to sell? Or, hi, I'm PT Bowie. I sell real estate. Okay, that's weird.
Well, yeah, but there's like a mind block that, like, for some reason, like, you don't even know that you've done it, right? Yeah, for some reason, we just make it awkward where if you were never really in real estate, you'd probably just go out and have conversations with people, right? But something that really stuck with me, we had a great training at the end of 2025. I don't know if we spoke about this before, but Ryan DeApril came in from the Chicagoland area, and he said, what are realtors the best at? And people gave out their answers, and someone finally hit the right answer, and it's marketing, right? We know how to market in every single different way. We go into Canva and spend 10 hours in Canva a day making ourselves look amazing, right? But what are realtors the worst at?
Conversations.
Building relationships and keeping and nurturing relationships.
I mean conversations in a business setting,
right,
working your sphere of influence.
Right. And so what he did to prove that is that he actually coaches somebody in our office, and he actually went through and made an example. But we started to think about it yourself after this happened. But he would go through, and 2-3 years ago, he pulled an address and he asked the person who lives at this. And then we all started to think, oh my goodness, if we were asked the same question, would we know who lives there?
Yeah.
So it's all about not only creating new relationships, but nurturing current relationships as well.
My answer to that question, PT, I know it was rhetorical, but it's funny when I think about this. For Iowa, I think, yes, I could probably tell you who lives there. For Illinois, I'm not so sure, but Brad probably could. And so could you, because that's how your brains work. But that just goes back to, though, that speaks volumes to how we do operate our business, right? Like, we do operate our business from a place of relationships and getting to know the people. And, we've talked about this before, but Brad's been doing this for, guess what, not 25 years. How many years,
No,
PT?
it's 25 still.
How can it be 25 still when it's the new year?
August
well, not yet. He's got it till August.
So. Okay, well, 25 plus. But anyway, and we have people that have literally, we've looked back through, that have worked with us like 6-7 times. Like, they started working with Brad and they kept going. That's a testament to that relationship. But just think about how cool that is. Like, when it's not transactional, right? It's relationship based. And so those are people that we've watched get married. We've watched have their first kid. We've watched their kids now graduate from college. I mean, like, that's a cool thing. And who doesn't want that in their real estate business, rather than just transactions and chasing leads to get your next business. And so that's why relationships are so important, right? Is because you enjoy it then.
Yeah,
It's
and it's one of those that if you truly don't care, like you're just transactional, then you're not going to get the repeat business. It's kind of like a friendship, right? The more that you put into it, the more that you get out of it, like a marriage, whatever you want to say. There's a lot of examples out there, but if you're in constant contact with your past clients and sphere
there's
of
no such thing
influence,
as a past client, Brad.
uh, returning client, what does
They're
Sharon
just
say?
clients.
Clients. If you're in constant communication with your clients, did I do that better?
Yeah, much
All right,
better.
good. Um,
It's like when you say cheap versus
yeah,
inexpensive.
that's a bad word. I would agree with you. But if you're in constant communication, I mean, that's there, you're going to be top of mind. And it's not about like talking real estate either. It's that you care about their kids. You like really care about their family. And you just really just have a natural conversation, not a business conversation.
Well, and that brings me right into where I want to go with this. So you could picture two different type of groups that you're nurturing, in my opinion. One is your client base that you've transacted with in the past, right? So that needs to be nurtured and so forth. And that's probably one of the biggest holes. After that is like we just talked about, is that once it's over, most people just kick it to the side,
Yep.
and that's why these numbers are so staggering. That everybody's so happy with their realtor right when they close on the property, but what is the percentage that they don't use them down the road for their next transaction? It's less than what, 5%.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit. And like you just
I
really
think it's
said,
91% of people don't or something like that. So
is
8 or
that
9
was,
do.
Sure,
and it's a shocking amount that liked their old or their past agent too. So I mean, it's not that they did a bad job, but they just didn't stay in
Well,
contact.
and it's so funny just hearing you say that kind of clicked for me too. Two things. So, when we were just talking about you don't call your clients that you just closed a deal with past clients, they're still clients, right?
True.
And it's the same thing if your clients are saying, "Oh, my old realtor or my previous realtor," well then you must not have positioned yourself or made enough impact on them or built a strong enough relationship for them to still consider you their realtor even though they just bought a home. And that's, the same thing for relationships in this. And the other thing I was going to say is it's interesting too hearing you PT when you're like, oh my gosh, this has happened to me like 5 times this week. I completely just lost my train of thought. Y'all talk and I'll come back to whatever I was just going
Well,
to
I think
say.
what I want to see with this is I want to give our examples of now how we are nurturing our clients, right? And what that looks like. There's different things that we're coming up with, different systems, and what we've done in the past as well. One is what we call a buoy VIP 100, right? So we're building a system out where we're nurturing clients and letting them know how important they are to us. But the simple other way of going about it as well is looking at, okay, I want to touch these people 4 times a quarter. And what's the easiest way? And it doesn't have to be a phone call, it could be a text. But what do you do? What's the easiest way for you to come up with some type of conversation other than real estate?
I mean, it always comes down to everybody likes to talk about themselves, right? And that would include themselves, that would include their kids, that would include their parents, that would
Their
include
dogs,
their
their cats.
dogs, cats, yeah, I mean, whatever it is that they're involved in, their jobs. So it's real easy. I mean, just to call somebody up. I mean, I've been doing it this week that our contest or our program, the
Challenge.
challenge
Mhm.
that we're doing, it's been amazing that it's made me do these things. And like I was telling our coach, that all of a sudden we have all these people that are ready to transact that they were probably ready anyway, but now they're really ready that I reached out to them.
Sure.
So
Well, and you know what's hilarious is what he said to us, PT, when Brad said that, because Brad's like, it's just crazy. Like, and it was legitimately, it wasn't calling them to see if they were ready to buy or sell, right? It was just calling them to touch base. Happy New Year, whatever,
yep.
whatever. And then, it sounds like a lot of them are a lot more ready to go than, and our coach said, so I have a question for you, Brad. How many millions of dollars do you think you've left on the table?
Oh, I mean, a ton. And
I mean, just think about that for a
I,
minute because we don't. And
yeah,
what I was going to say, and I got my train of thought back, is that, PT, you said that when the deal closes and then it's like, okay, you're like, bye, and you don't talk to him anymore or whatever. Well, my response to that is, well, then you clearly either A, you didn't like the person to begin with, right? So then I guess part of that would be like, who do you want to have a relationship with? Well, you want to have a relationship with someone that you like and you like to be around. And I think that if you look at that when you're building your client base, right, it's easier to keep that relationship going because you genuinely like the person.
Yeah.
So it's not like it closes. I mean, we always say, and we literally say this, it's like when you're transacting with somebody that is a client, it's like weird because it's like you're like married, right? For a while. And then it's like, did we get divorced? Did you go on vacation? Like,
where'd you go?
because you don't talk as frequently, because usually you're used to talking every couple days. So yeah, I mean, I think that the big thing to what you're saying is it makes it easier for those touch points and making those calls and conversations if you're actually working with people that you like.
Right.
Yeah.
Not just them liking you, but you
And
like them.
I mean, you can't kick yourself either that if you do this and you do the actual follow up, there are times where life happens where maybe they've got a relationship with a realtor that they didn't have in the past, that they're really close friends. And, I get all
Or like
that.
you have a client that marries a realtor.
Correct.
I think you lose that business.
Like I said, life happens and there's nothing wrong with that. But the ones that you kick yourself are that, okay, we had a great relationship. We loved working with each other. And gosh, I mean, how do they even know that agent that they just listed their house with? Those are the ones where you're just like, ugh. And a lot of the times, almost always, the reason why that happens is that there was just no personal contact. And that does not include mailing out postcards and those kinds of touches. I'm talking actual calls, emails, texts, that they're on the top of your mind.
Yeah, I recommend calls, texts, and handwritten notes. People like those genuine touches as well, because most likely you took the time out to actually handwrite that note and put it in the mail and so forth. There's extra steps that people understand that, that's genuine. So going back, okay, so we know that we need to reach out to this person. We have an idea of, who their kids are. They have a dog, they have a cat, we know who their parents are. Go to Facebook. Go to Facebook.
Yeah.
You should be friends with them on Facebook in this situation and just see what they've been doing the last couple of weeks. Did they go on a vacation? Did they just have a grandkid? Are they celebrating their kid's birthday or so forth? Their kid just won all state in high school for whatever sport, right? So use Facebook to your advantage. For multiple reasons. You can find birthdays. We just found that. You can get a whole list of the month's birthdays there if you don't have it already in your CRM. So utilize Facebook or other platforms like that give you information that you might not have. But when you get that information, plug it in, and then you can have it all in one spot, right? So you're not searching for it again.
Well, and just something super simple, like on that same note, which is what I do right now. I mean, we have a formal system we're rolling out for 2026. Once we get done with an MLS change and an office manager training and all the other things that the buoys have on the world right now. But the thing is like, I'll just literally go into our CRM and just make myself a task. It'll be like, hey, send a card for, so-and-so's new baby that was born, or, send a card for so-and-so's high school graduation. So it's on my radar, because otherwise you're not going to do it. Right. And that's the thing is like, I am literally the most guilty person. If I showed you my stack,
I was going to say buying the cards and not sending them. So your heart's definitely in the right spot.
Brad it's a true story. I literally, all of you, if any of you are listening are my friend or a client, then I like you.
She's got the card here.
I probably have a card for you that I haven't sent to you. So I'm trying to get better about that. And it's not that I don't have, it's just that I don't, if you don't have a system, then busy world gets in the way and then you forget. And then I'm like, well, it's 2 weeks after their, baby was born, or it's, a month after their wedding. I can't send it now, which I really should just send them anyway. Right.
Sure.
But, but yes, have a system.
Yeah. And so that kind of wraps up just the simple ways on how you can nurture clients that you've transacted with before. But let's go to the other side with potential database transactors that you haven't transacted with. And so this kind of reverts back to our challenge that we're working on in the office currently. And we'll break down kind of what we're doing to improve database nurturing. So the first thing is, and the first half of the challenge is role playing. And that's something I've never really done, but know that that's definitely something that has to be done to improve skills, because even when we bring something to each other, there's times where we're like, oh my goodness, I've never even ran into that situation. So not only, role playing different situations, but just how to have conversations with people, like we spoke about at the beginning of the podcast, is that we sometimes just lose our train of thought or even way of being able to conversate with just random people. So role playing is important, and framing conversations and so forth, and just not being so salesy at the beginning of conversations too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what our card game and the role playing thing helps out with. It just teaches you how to frame stuff so you get the conversation going in a positive way.
Yeah, and what I was gonna say is like if you're someone that if you wanna go even deeper into that, I think the card game that we have is great and I love it. But back in my previous life, as many of you know, that I worked for Hilton Hotels Corporation, and they every year did a director of sales training, which you had to be certified in. It was a week-long training that we would go to. And one of the things that that training consisted of was the disc profile, which we all had everybody in that training had to do the disc profile. I know there's something else now, I can't remember what it's called, that people
Yeah.
Myers-Briggs or
Yeah,
something? Yeah.
there's another one. There's a million.
Yes, so those things. So, but, it's kind of cool because the cool thing that that teaches you is, like, first of all, you learn what your personality is and your dominant traits are, and then in that particular training, we spent a week because everybody in the class had different personality traits, you know? And so it was teaching you how to talk to and how to work with people that have a different personality than yours. And I think that's super important, right, is recognizing that your clients, I mean, you know, the engineer, we joke about this, right? Like when you're doing a CMA or something for a client, if they're an engineer, you're probably not going to send them a CMA that has a bunch of fluffy pictures
No.
and you know all that. You probably need to send them a spreadsheet.
Right.
So it's also you know that's communication, right? Relationship, like it that goes back to learning your client, learning your friend, and who they are, so you know how to communicate with them best. And so that's just another way too. If you've never done this profile, I challenge you to go and do that. You can do it online. We actually have a service through Real Luxury that we can do that because it's also important to understand your own personality style because that will help you in how you communicate with
Well,
others.
and it's really interesting. The client that we met with yesterday, very high and very high D.
If you
And
don't know what that is, can you explain that, Brett?
uh, influencer and dominant,
Right.
like more like type A. And it was really funny. These people that I've learned over the years, which I tend to be kind of in the same category, they tend to be like you would expect that they would want to read the entire contract. But that high I, they trust you, and that's the reason why they ended up hiring you, and they just say, "Where do I sign?"
Right.
A lot of the times, and I learned that over the years, and when you introduced me, Andrea, to this, what was it? DISC,
Disc.
disc, it really made a big difference of, like, how I reacted to people, like, there's some I really think the hardest one is when you're a high D and a high C,
Mhm.
which would be analytical, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Conscientious.
So those are the ones where they want all the facts
Like your dad would
and
be.
they're in control, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, those are probably in my experience, and they tend to be a lot of engineers, a
Mhm.
lot of analytical people that they want the facts. Like you don't need to give them all the fluff; they want to know
But even in our
where you're going.
office, look at the agents that, you know, that are in this challenge, right? You can go through and they haven't even done the disc profile, but I can pretty much peg each of their
Pretty
personalities.
close.
Yep.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yep.
So yeah, understanding, communication styles and how
Yeah.
people like
Huge.
to be presented to things and just sharpening your skills on, you know, eh, just communicating with people. We think it's something that's so easy, but really it's an art at the end
Yeah.
of the day. And then the second half of our challenge, we sit in small groups and we go through basically our database. So whether that's sphere, people that we have, but not, in our circle, but not transacted with. We've got lead generation essentially. So leads that have come in that we really don't know personally, but have maybe had a couple conversations with. And we go through and we make sure that we're consistently following up with people. It's pretty easy to make 2 or 3 calls at the beginning, but really at the end of the day, how many times does it take for somebody to actually answer your phone call or respond to your text?
See if Brad's got the answer.
Uh, so you're talking about somebody that's not a sphere of influence
Correct.
person. How many times? I'm going to say 7 to 8.
7 to 8.
Between 7 and 8 times
7.8
before they
times.
actually
Yep.
transact, right? But actually to get them to respond, I think like the answer the phone or in any kind of response is like right around that at least the third time.
Mhm.
And then you got to get them to kind of trust you and build a relationship before they actually want to transact.
Right.
Well, and then you like got the high I people. They'll probably call you back right away and say, "How's everything going?" It's
Well, there
the
was a story that was
it's
being
the
told.
C's
Yep.
that bring that
Yeah.
down.
There was a story that someone was telling that they made a phone call during the small group breakout and I believe that they came through their open house and she had been sending and sending and sending them
This is
stuff and
great.
just haven't heard anything. And then she called her and she picked up this and she heard somebody say background, who is it? And the person on the other side said, it's Chris. And they're like, oh my gosh, it's Chris. And it just shocked her that, she didn't think
They
that they weren't
remembered her. And,
responding.
yeah.
Yeah, that
Yep.
they knew exactly who she was. And then it
Yep.
just unfolded from there, which is
Yep.
incredible.
But if you think about it too, and that's the thing, like we have to remember everybody's human and everybody is,
course.
we all get busy, right? I mean, during your day to day life, I mean, if you see someone, even if it's someone that you know, like, and trust, you might not answer the phone right away. Like you might be busy. And then it's not that you don't call them back because you don't like them. It's just that you're busy, right? You get, pulled in a million different ways. So I think that's where that 7 to 8 times or, whatever comes into play. And we just as I mean, I can tell you myself personally, I could sit here and I'd have to like spend a little reflection time, but I can make you a list of services that I use or people that I have done business with that I probably blew off a good 4 to 5 times
Right.
before I actually connected with them. And I mean, like, let's use an example. Locals love us, right? So like, not to like, we were like the, number one loved agent again this year in the Quad Cities. Thank you to everyone that voted for us. We love you all too. But all the guy that runs it wants to do is give us our award, take a picture, ask us about if we want to advertise for next year in the magazine they do. And his assistant's been trying to reach out to me on and off again since like October. I mean, I like him and we're going to do something.
Right.
We're
We
just
always
busy.
do. Yeah. Well, and that's a great point. So someone made a phenomenal comment, and this person had experience in networking sales and supplement sales and so forth. And she said, real estate's just not the top of mind of people, right?
No,
It's not in the
100%.
forefront. That's not what they're thinking about every day. Yes, they might be looking on Zillow, but they don't know that this is something they need until you actually start to break down what is needed from that whole transaction aspect of it, right? So it's not at the top of people's mind. And then going back to another great comment is, people like when you call them, right? That
Yeah.
they want to be heard from you and so forth.
Well, and one of the best things that you can do, because I know that a client did this to me just a few days ago, that he had asked me, who do you use for real estate pictures and who would you recommend for a marketing firm? And, I said, well, my brother uses such and such group, but they're a larger agency for St. Joan of Arc. We use a smaller agency. So, but it meant a lot that this client is very successful, that he reached out and we've done business with him in the past. And of course, like now he's top of mind, right? So I think when you show vulnerability and you like ask clients questions, I mean, you have so many resources out there. I mean, that's another way to build a relationship, is when they are an expert in that area, reach out to them.
Well, and if you think about this, and PT, I know this was like kind of back when you were just getting in the business, but like during those couple COVID years, you saw a lot of agents that had really, really down years. And the interesting part about that is that people would talk, oh, it's because we can't go anywhere and we can't go outside and we can't do anything. Well, yes, that's true. But you also had agents that had some of their best years ever during those times, even though it was trying and it was a horrible and difficult situation. And you know why? Because they had such strong relationships with their clients and the
Yep.
people that knew, like, and trust them, that they still connected, whether it was phone call, whether it was a Zoom. They didn't have to be out and about to just randomly run into a person to get them to do business. So that speaks volume to that as well, right? It goes back to when, I was listening to podcast say, I mean, who knows what happens tomorrow, right?
Right.
But like, when you just take it back to the basics and you make those phone calls and you have those personal connections, you're almost guaranteed that you're going to continue to grow, because if they know, like, and trust you, they're probably telling somebody else they know, like, and trust you.
Top of mind.
Exactly. And so, yeah, it's not being weird and being like, oh, this is Andrea Bowie. I was wondering if you want to buy, sell, or build this year.
Yeah.
It's just calling to say, hey, what's up? I was just thinking of you.
Yeah, and it goes back to like the locals love us deal too. I mean, we really like the guy, but it's like any other
Shopper.
business. Yeah, he's a great guy. Like any other business, like you said, it's always not top of mind. So it's not that we're putting them off. It's that we have other things, and it's just at the top of the priority list. But we know that if we want in the magazine, there's going to be a deadline for it. So we're going to have to sign up, kind of like real estate, right? I mean, it may not be at the top of the mind right now, but when they have to move, guess who they're going to call?
That's right.
You.
P.T. Bowie.
But yeah, going back to my point, mindset, right? If there's one thing that you need to maybe tweak if you're having issues like this person doesn't want to hear from me, or that's the reason why you're not picking up the phone and nurturing relationships. These people want to hear from you. They, there's a reason why you already have a connection between them, and it's up to you if you want to continue and build that relationship, right? And you just have to open the door and be genuine with the person. That's the biggest key to any relationship.
And conversion happens in conversation.
I used to have a boss that used to say communication is the key to success. And that was in reference to like talking to other members of your team to make sure something happened. But if you think about it, it applies to everything. Right? Everything.
Yep.
I don't know about you, but if you are struggling with nurturing relationships or want more help, maybe shoot us a DM and you're interested maybe about our challenge. Maybe you'd be willing to have the conversation about putting the details out there or the framework and going from there. But let us know. Let us know how you maybe nurture your relationships. And, this is the year to make sure that everybody knows, likes, and trusts you.
Love it.
Amen. Peace.
Peace.